Good morning and welcome to Bully Ball Early Bird Morning Podcast. We're here early. You're probably doing your commute into work or you're just waking up, but we're doing this early morning podcast. I'm on the East Coast. My dad's in California, so we got to make this weird time schedule work. So you guys are getting that very, very early in the morning 49er podcast. We're going to dive into the 49er state of the franchise heading into the offseason today. So tune in and don't forget to subscribe.
Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, check up on my ear. Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, I'm about to cut.
All right. So, first off, we know the 49er season is over. They've been making a couple moves already. But first things first, go ahead and give us, your grade on this past 49er season. We know you went to 7 or 8 games this year. What would you grade the season overall?
At the beginning, we started off a little rough. I was real excited for Trey to come in. But overall, obviously we wish Trey never got hurt so he could have developed throughout the year. But overall, I give us an A. Great season. The team came back. When Trey went down, that should have been our season. Luckily Jimmy G was still there. And Jimmy G pulled through and got us going, rallied up around him. And then when Jimmy went down, that was the second odds right there. That was our 2 strikes. We should have been out right there. Then Purdy comes in, does what he does, and shit took us all the way to the championship game, and I still feel if he didn't get hurt, we win that game. The Philly fans, they don't think so, but what the hell do they know? They lost their quarterback and they dropped 2 games right back to back. And, we're coming in this championship game. We're rolling in playoffs, taking out some pretty good teams with our 3rd string quarterback. Everybody forgets that, but I give them an A, man. They rallied up. Everybody did their job. And it was fun to watch. They gave us a good season. We could have been done right there week 1, week 2, but we battled through, and I'll give them an A. It was solid. It was a good season.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'd give it an A. The moment Trey went down, that's when the 49er season was practically over, right? You're supposed to be grooming him to be your quarterback of the future, still make the playoffs with him. He goes down. You have Jimmy G back in, but at the same time, we all knew what Jimmy G was, and we knew you're probably not winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy G, And with the start with Jimmy G, it didn't even look like we were making the playoffs with Jimmy G. But then, they start getting on a roll, start winning some games, and then he goes down, and you're like, damn, all right, we got to go to Brock Purdy. The season's a wrap. Couple of weeks before that, Brock Purdy came in for the last drive of a game, and either him or Jordan Mason went the wrong way and they botched a handoff. I don't know who it was, but that was your last memory of Brock Purdy before he was now your starter. So, at that moment, not a single 49er fan could tell me they thought what happened would happen with the 49ers. So, at that point, it was all just house money, whatever happened, happened. And now you have a guy that could potentially be your quarterback of the future. So that's a win. Obviously, the way it ended stings. And with him getting hurt makes it even worse. But the only way, this season could have been better is if you win the Super Bowl. That's how you get the A+. So I'll give him the A as well. It was a great season, a lot of good memories. But now we head into the off season. We're going to dive into, who the 49ers have on the roster right now. And then we're going to look at the 49ers free agents this year. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we think they can improve. Um, and then, just kind of how the roster's looking at the moment. So let me pull that up. All right. Can you see it?
Mhm.
So these are the players on the 49ers roster right now. It says 48, but I believe it's 46. There's a couple on here that are um, free agents after this year, but for some reason they don't have them listed as that. So obviously, one thing that I noticed when I pulled this up earlier and I was looking at it is you look at all these key guys, all these star players for the 49ers. Um, and Nick Bosa is the only one here that says expires 2024, which is after next season. But he actually has the 5th-year option that they don't show on here. So all of these players, you have at least 2 more years. And that's Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Armstead, Kittles, Debo, McCaffrey, Charvarius Ward, Trey Lance, Nick Bosa, Juice, Greenlaw. And you could even go down Kinlaw, Ayuk, um, Aaron Banks. So all your key players that you need on this team, you have at least 2 more years. So for anybody saying the 49ers Super Bowl window is closed, or maybe they have 1 more year, that's totally false because you at least have these star players 2 more years. So what do you think about that?
I feel real good about that. It sucks because if we could have got it this year, man, we could have came back and, back to back, like realistically, because that's the core of our team right there. That's the heart of our team. And you figure this is something positive to look at. It's going to be it's a good problem to have, having the 2 quarterbacks, Purdy and Trey, 2 young quarterbacks. Excuse me. I got fighting a little cold right now. But you got 2 young quarterbacks that both can ball out. We know what Purdy could do. Trey, we hope what he could do, but he has the talent to do it. We have the team where the quarterback doesn't need to be an all-star. So we're going to have a battle in the offseason if Purdy comes back with the recovery that they're talking 6 months. Hey, we're going to be looking good next year because of whoever we're rolling with, we're going to have a solid-ass backup with the team that we have. So that's a good thing to look at because if somebody ends up going down or they're struggling real bad, for 2-3 games, we know we're going to have somebody behind them that could get the job done. And luck of the draw, hopefully we never see that again, going through 4 quarterbacks in a year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good, having that core of our team coming back for like you said, another 2 years with the quarterbacks that we have getting ready to come back. Feel real confident that we don't get 1 or 2 rings out of this because we just got to get in the playoffs. We know Arizona, they're not doing well right now. Seattle's Seattle. They're always going to be okay, but they're still going to be around the same team. And then who else we got in there? The Rams. Yeah, the Rams. They barely got their coach back and all that. They got their own problems. So, we just got to be able to get into the dance again and see what happens.
Yeah, and the players' ages right here. The 49ers are still relatively young compared to most teams. Obviously, you got Trent, little old, but you see a majority of these key players on this team are in their 20s still. Before the Eagles game, I was looking at their roster. A majority of their, star players were over 30, at least on that defensive side of the ball in the O-line. So the 49ers still relatively young, even though people think that window is closing, which I disagree with. Obviously, you have some holes you got to fix. But yeah, I think you need the quarterback play to be consistent, and this team could go as far as that takes them. And we saw that this year. When the quarterback play was consistent, the reeling off wins, whether it was by the quarterback's hand or not. They just need somebody that can consistently get the job done and stay on the field. Who that is, I don't know. We'll see, but let's go down the rest of this roster. Um, the one that hurts me right here is Mitch Wishnowsky till 2027. I don't know. Andy's 30. I don't know why they re-signed the dude. He's not a great punter in my eyes, but whatever. And then another thing, the 49ers have all these dudes from last year's draft who didn't really make an impact this year. Hopefully going into year 2, they can get with those star players at their positions and train with them in the offseason. You got Drake Jackson. They said he was a bit banged up towards the end of the season. His body was giving out on him. This dude need to be with Nick Bosa all offseason training. Nick Bosa is the prototype pass rusher. He treats his body, like a robot. He should be doing all these crazy things. Drake Jackson needs to do whatever he can to be with Nick Bosa the whole offseason. Same thing with Ty Davis Price. This dude got beat out by Jordan Mason for reps during the season. Jordan Mason and Ty Davis Price need to do whatever they can to be around Christian McCaffrey in this offseason training with them. Danny Gray, another guy. Burner, we saw him with Trey Lance in the preseason. He was beating people deep. And Trey Lance loves that deep ball. This dude needs to be out there with Brandon Ayuk working on his routes and how to use his speed while running routes, because that was his issue. He doesn't threaten people in route. He has a speed. He just needs to work on the routes. Get with Brandon Ayuk the whole offseason. Out of these 3 dudes right here, who do you think makes the biggest step up and makes the biggest impact next year?
Shit, probably. Well, I think Danny Gray is going to be a baller, but with Ayuk and the weapons that we already have, like, you're really going to have to step up to get in there. We still have Jennings too.
Jawan is a restricted free agent, so we have the first right to him. But I think we could put a tender on him, and then it guarantees him a certain amount of money. But he should be back unless someone decides to pay him some crazy amount or something like that, which could happen.
But I think he didn't get enough time on there, and other people, if you're not Niner fans, don't really know. Like, he was a third down monster for us. I think we know more what he is, so hopefully he could come back. But I think we could see great things from Danny Gray. But even Jackson, like you said, he works with Bosa, does the training, get your body right. Because your first year in the NFL, you really don't know what the hell to expect. Then you're coming to a team that's stacked like ours with the people like ours. Some of them say they don't look up to them, or, they're not starstruck or nothing like that. But when you come in, college to the NFL is a way different game, different levels. You in college, you could be getting away with stuff. In the NFL, you're not going to. So I think the culture shock, eating, putting on muscle, putting on weight, being able to move, taking care of your body, the speed of the game, totally different. So the first year, I could see not everyone really coming out and doing it. Some will, but not all players will. So I think their second year is the big year to turn around. Now they know they're not the rookie. New guys are coming in under them. And then you got to have the heart and the will to play. Are you going to fight for a spot, or are you just going to be all right being, second one up? So I think all 3 of those players, I'm real excited to see what they could do.
Which one is going to make the biggest impact? You can't avoid the question.
Jackson.
All right. I think I agree. he got a. Well, you obviously saw the athleticism from the guy. You know, he was doing those crazy backflips and shit. The dude's a athletic monster at like 270, 80 pounds. You know, get with Nick Bosa, get with somebody, work on your hands, get your hand usage better, work on your pass rush moves. Because when he was rushing the passer this past year, it looked like he was just bull rushing the tackle. You know, you're this athletic freak. You know, beat these tackles with your athleticism. But I agree. I think Drake Jackson, I don't know if he starts. I think the 49ers bring somebody in that's going to be the starter at DN. But if he could become like a 6 sack guy off the bench, like a rotation dude next year, that would be a success for me, in my opinion. What do you think?
I agree. I think that was one of the things. That was one of the things that I will give Philly. You know, when you have multiple guys up there with sacks, they don't need to be runner up for defensive player of the year. But if they're consistent and they're always up there in the face doing their job, that's a big key part. And I think that was one thing that, you know, kind of held Bosa back. Like we said, if Bosa didn't get the pressure, it seemed like we didn't get the pressure. If we have other guys that are threats as well, that's going to even make a great person like Bosa even better. So we need those other guys to step up.
Yeah. Philly was the prototype of how you win the way the 49ers want to win in the NFL this year. Just guys all, it didn't matter if it was Brock Purdy at quarterback or Josh Johnson. There was somebody in their face every single play, and you didn't know where it was going to come from, the inside, the outside. Like, for the 49ers, you really kind of knew where the pressure would come from, so they could cheat that way and take it away. So, as this offseason goes on, we're going to dive in deep. We already know where they need to improve, but you really want to see that step up from Drake Jackson. Danny Gray, I really hope this dude's with Brandon Ayuk in the offseason. If Trey Lance is the starter, Danny Gray's going to be on the field a whole lot more. And even when he got a few touches during the season and he looked good,
Yeah.
we got to see it consistently. An interesting dude. 49ers used a 3rd-round pick on him, Ambry Thomas. He was banged up all season, never really got on the field on the defense. It's kind of crazy because he looked like he was locked in as that number 2 starter at corner heading into the season. You expect this dude to bounce back and maybe fight for a starting job, or you think he's just a depth piece at this point?
I think he'll fight back, because like you said, he looked locked in for a while. I thought for sure, this dude's solid, number 2. So I think he'll be one of the ones in the battle for that. Good speed, he could ball out just for whatever it was. It just wasn't connecting for him, But I see him battling, making it tough out there for them guys who's going to get the starting role out there.
Yeah, so we'd love to see Ambry Thomas take a step up. And, one thing, our new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, he's been a DB coach his whole career. So you expect your DBs to take that step up like your linebackers did under D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh, because those were linebacker coaches and D'Amico played linebacker. You expect your DBs to step up. So, you expect great things from these young DBs now. And I wonder if that kind of influenced Shanahan a bit too. Like, hey, our DBs, they were good this year, but that's always been our weakness on the defense. Let's get a defensive coordinator that specializes in DB to help them grow. So hopefully we see some growth from all the DBs on the team heading into next year.
I'm real excited too about that coach. That was That's a good pickup right there.
Yeah.
Because throughout the year there was sometimes D'Amico was a great coach, but I think the talent that we had on defense sometimes carried him through. Because there was times that we were like, "Fuck, make the adjustments," make the adjustments, and we weren't making the adjustments. And I think it was just the skill level of the players that were getting the job done. So I'm real excited about this coach, because when you have a good coach and you have chemistry, you don't want to just lose people, start over every year. But this coach, I was listening to a podcast. They said he runs kind of the same defense, but he's going to make a few little changes, little tweaks. Hey, and those little tweaks could make us even a better team, because the one thing you couldn't take away, our defense was solid. That Philly game showed it. Purdy goes down, Johnson comes in. We're still battling in that game. He don't fumble that ball. Our defense had him, I think, to like 3 punts until we started folding. And we knew, if you watch football and you got a 4th string quarterback coming in, eventually with your defense being on the field that long and that much, you're going to start going down. You're going to start getting tired and the score is going to run up. So that wasn't even like Philly put 31 points on us. You know what I mean? Even if they would have beat us, and with Purdy in there, it would have been a tight game. It wouldn't have just been what it was. So our defense is legit. And so I'm real excited about this coach. That was a good pickup.
Yeah, and people have been debating it. They're like, he's not that good of a coach. Some people, he's a great coach, whatever. Just the way he turned that Panthers team around tells me all I need to know. Your defense is going to play their hearts out for the guy. I was at the 49ers versus Panthers game that we got Matt Rule fired, the head coach, and that team was down bad. Like you couldn't have told me they were going to win 6 more games after that on the season. So, he did a great job. And some of the things I was reading about Steve Wilks, that could be positives, could be negatives, whatever, whoever takes it, however they want to take it. When he has been a defensive coordinator, he sends the 3rd most blitzes on those defenses in the league. So, we've seen the 49ers don't really send blitzes, and that kind of upsets us a little bit, when we're watching these games, because like we said, they know where the pressure is coming from. They can cheat that way. You send blitzes, you have Talanoa Hufanga, that dude could have 8 sacks in a season if you let him blitz off the edge. He's a great blitzer from the safety spot. You have Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, 2 of the best linebackers in the league. We really haven't seen them blitz much in the league, but just based on their athleticism, they would be great blitzing the quarterback. So, that's really intriguing to me, because hey, if you got to put your corners on an island, but you're getting pressure immediately on the quarterback, you're going to force turnovers. You know what I mean? So I personally really like that and hope he does send a lot of blitzes this year. And then also I was reading that he likes to get exotic on 3rd down. He likes to get them into 3rd and long situations and then throw things at the team that they aren't expecting. So I love that. I don't know what we're going to see, but I'm real excited to see what he can do. And with Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans, they were never defensive coordinators before they became the 49ers. So we dealt with those ups and downs early in their tenures. You know what I mean? There was weeks where like, God damn, this dude ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? Yep. And then as the seasons would go on, they would get better and better. Steve Wilks is established. You expect the defense to be firing the way it should be from week 1. This dude's been a D coordinator before. He knows what he's doing. There aren't going to be any, lapses. He should know what he wants to do from week 1. So,
yep. I'm excited. I'm real excited for that.
Exactly. We got CG Ruthless 49ers Talk saying, good morning, sir. It's early. Glad to see you up and in here. All right, so let's keep going. So we got Spencer Burford coming back. Hopefully, he had an up and down year, but I believe he's a fifth round rookie. You know, played really, really well for a fifth round rookie starting. Hope to see progression from him. Samuel Womack, another dude that was a rookie, probably going to be penciled in as your starter at nickel this year from the jump. Like we said, DB coach coming in. Hopefully, you see this dude take the next step. Great, great player in college. Always seems to get his hands on the ball in college and in the preseason. How do you feel about him? He's kind of undersized, but he's one of those guys when the ball's around him, he always seems to make a play on it.
Yeah, he reads the ball really well. I see big things coming out of him too this year because, like I said, the more time you get and the more time you get with the team, we you get the right coaching as you see the game develop. We have the good thing too is the last 2 years we've had long seasons. Trent Williams was talking about, man, these long seasons are tough, but that's a good problem right there. That means that we're not done at the end of the regular season. So you figure that's that many 1 to 2 to 3 more weeks of practice, more games, and you're in there with the elite players. So you're really getting good, valuable time to see what you're learning from. So I see him balling out this year because he does read the ball really, really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if he becomes your starting nickel this year. We'll see what happens though, who they decide to bring in, stuff like that. Another interesting guy, Kalia Davis. 49ers drafted him in the 6th round last year. He's a D tackle, but when he went into college, he was a linebacker, and then he put on hella weight and got moved to D tackle. But fairly limited college tape because he tore his ACL, but he looked very explosive, kind of like a DJ Jones type of interior guy, not huge, but pretty explosive so he could get past the center and guards. Do you expect to see him compete for a starting job? Maybe he's just a depth piece. Do you think he's going to make the team? What do you think? 6th round pick from last year.
Like you said, he had good speed, and sometimes the speed, how Shanahan likes his team. Usually we're a little smaller, but they could move. I see him competing. It all depends if we go out and get somebody. I heard you and Bubba talking about the draft class this year stacked with both sides of the line. So it's tough to say, you know what I mean? You've seen little spurts of it. Maybe he is a depth piece and he's a practice squad to help out, make him a little better on the other side. So it's tough to say. You always want to see all your young guys come through and make it and do good things. But unfortunately, in this game, you need the elite.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what Kalia Davis could do, in the preseason. See if he could provide some juice as a pass rusher on the interior because that has been sorely lacked for years now for the 49ers. Demo, would you be happy if the 49ers just say, hell, we're fine with Charvarius Ward and Demo as our starting outside corners going into next year? Would you be fine with that, with how he turned his season around last year?
Yeah, because I see good things out of him too. I think he's going to be good. You know what I mean? He did good. He turned it around, started balling. I think if we have the right schemes, they're going to be able to lock it down. I mean, we played some good receivers, and they were doing their job, man, because we played some of the tough ones. I'm real confident with him. I think we're going to be all right with him.
Once the playoffs hit, it just seemed like his confidence went up. I don't know what happened, but the moment he started playing with confidence, at times he kind of looked like the best corner on the team, in the playoffs. I was pretty shocked with how well he played. I still want Emmanuel Mosley back as well. You know, he was
Yeah.
playing like a top 10 corner in the league. Probably would have been a Pro Bowler had he not been injured. But you know, if they say, "Hey, we're rolling with Demo as the guy," I'm cool with it. You know, just keep that confidence, keep growing, and I think you would be fine.
And I think making the run that we made this year, where you get that confidence, you build it more knowing that you made it that far in the playoffs, and we know why we lost. But knowing that we got there, that you could really do it, you played at the highest level. I think when he comes in next year, we're even going to see a better version of him right
Yeah,
off
and
the
that
start.
and that's a 6th round pick. You know, 49ers always be crushing those late round picks, and they have a ton of them this year. So you love to see that. Brock Purdy, you know, we still don't know um, what's going to happen with his surgery and all that. We'll get on and let you guys know once we find out as well. Um, Hufanga, you know, started the season off crazy, looked like the next coming out of Troy Polamalu, and then kind of tailored down as the season went on, not making as many crazy plays, stuff like that. You know, what do you expect to see from him in year 3? You know,
Shit,
his coverage kind of was lacking again this year. But what do you think and what do you expect from him heading into year 3?
I'm expecting big things coming from him because when you're that young and you show that you could ball out, he doesn't seem like one of those players that just had a 1 year fluke. You come out, holy shit, this guy's great, and then boom, you never see it again. And then going to the Pro Bowl, I think all that helps him build the confidence. But he's one that he just commits hard. You know what I mean? When he goes, and sometimes it bites us in the ass. But he could read real well. You know what I mean? He's always around the ball. I predict that he's going to come out and ball this year. That boy's going to step up, and from here on out, he's going to be like a little Troy.
Yeah, and you know, probably if there's one person you think Steve Wilkes has the biggest impact on, it's probably Hufanga. You know, veteran DB coach, been coaching DBs for I think 18 plus years or something. Hufanga has all the instincts and talent. He just needs to work on his tackling, you know, not biting so hard. And I think if anybody's going to fix that in Hufanga, it would be Steve Wilkes. So, like you said, I think we see a crazy jump. And the dude was an all pro bowler this year. So and he could still be better. You know, he was
Yes.
there to make tons of plays and he just didn't wrap up. Or, you know, he bit too hard on a run fake. I expect next year to be a crazy one for the dude.
And one thing that I look at, I really like when these players, when they retire, and they were good players, they have good knowledge of the game, come back and coach. Because I know when I played or when I do things in life, if somebody's teaching me something, I want somebody that's been through it, that's done it, not just book work and stuff like that. So I give a lot of respect to like D'Amico, because he did do a great job. But like we were saying, D'Amico, Sala, those were young coaches that weren't coaches before. They got their opportunity. They did a great job. They know the game. But when you get a coach that's been around like our new coach, you're not just trying to, you're always trying to fend for your job. You're always trying to prove yourself. But he's already proven. You know what I mean? He's been in there. He knows what he needs to do. He's not going to get caught up in the year 1, 2, or 3 things that the new coaches are, because they got a lot riding on them. Can they do this job? Are they going to be good? Can they make the adjustments? They're still learning. And if you have young players, the young players are still learning. You get a veteran coach, that could be night and day. That these little things right here could be the difference to where we see a whole different team next year. Like our defense was already good. Our defense could be fucking great next year,
Yeah.
because he has the experience, and experience is something, it comes with time. You're not just going to get lucky with it. You could be smart, but the experience is something that's priceless. So I think that's going to be great for our defense.
I totally agree with you. Let's keep going through here. We're almost done with this part. So we got Elijah Mitchell here. You know, probably a top 20 talent at running back in the NFL. Just can't stay on the field. Um, it seems like he can't make it through consecutive weeks without getting a little nicked up. What do you think we see from this dude? You think he's able to reel in his health and stay healthy for a full season? You drafting another back? What are you doing with this backfield? And we know the 49ers running backs are going to get injured. Shanahan puts tons on them. They get tons of work every single week. You need a guy that's just going to be able to take 20, 30 carries without getting nicked up.
I hope and I pray that he can stay healthy for a full season because I love the dude. I love the way he runs. He explodes. Like, the dude's solid. I love the way that he plays the game. I just hope he can stay healthy. That was the thing that hurt him. And it's a trip because, like, you see some players with us and they're always injured. Then they go on to other teams and then they're good. Like, what was McKinnon?
Yep.
He's not doing big things over there at KC, but I mean, he's playing, he's healthy. With us, that fool was always down. But I really hope that he stays because I like JP too. I think our backs, we got a solid group running backs right there. And then you figure too, CMC comes in, you know what I mean? Starts off right away. I'm real excited to see what he does now that he's going to have a whole off season, start getting healthy, taking care of himself. And he was pretty healthy for us this year. And we ran him a shitload of times in the beginning, were ridiculous, like where we got to split up that. So I'm real excited to see what he does and then how these younger backs work off him because he's one of the greats too. You know what I mean? He's a vet that's legit. So I think him being around the locker room is going to change the way a lot of these young guys train, and run and try to stay healthy. I'm real excited. We got a solid group right there.
Yeah, and like you said, one of these backs, one of these three backs, or if they draft somebody or bring somebody in, needs to prove that they can take 10 to 15 snaps or carries a game because, like you said, CMC was getting like 30 touches a game. And as we saw, that got to him by the end of the season. He started getting banged up. You need somebody that Kyle Shanahan can trust to take some of the load off of McCaffrey. We'll see who that ends up being. I personally think it'll be Jordan Mason. That dude just needed 100 more carries on the season. From what we saw from him, that dude looked like he's going to be great in the league, but we'll see what happens. And that pretty much rounds out, the people that are signed and on the roster for next year. We do have the reserve future contracts, which basically means they're going to be in training camp this upcoming year, and then they'll compete for a spot on the 53-man roster. So we got a bunch of dudes that were on the practice squad last year. You have your three players that were the scout team players of the year. Quantrez Knight, cornerback, he was your defensive scout team player of the year. Tay Martin, wide receiver, was your special teams. And Jason Poe was your offensive player of the year on the scout team. And then a couple other guys that are kind of intriguing. This Tyron Johnson, they just signed him 2 days ago. So he's getting, almost $1 million on a future contract, which is pretty high. But he has pretty good experience. He was catching some nice passes from Justin Herbert. Um, runs a 4.3. He's 6'3". So he's kind of an intriguing guy at receiver to see in camp. I talked about it yesterday. You got Leroy Watson. So he's listed here as a tight end. He's actually a tackle. He converted from tight end to tackle when he came to the NFL. And I told Bubba, most of your super athletic tackles in the league were tight ends. So I think this is a guy that the 49ers are trying to grow into a tackle. We'll see what happens with him. And then obviously Jason Poe's our guy. We expect him to compete for a spot on the 53-man roster and possibly compete for a starting job. What are some things you see from these guys, or anything you want to touch on these guys?
I like those big receivers. 6'3", you could throw the ball up and they could go up and get it. So that's going to be exciting to watch him. Like you said, Jason Poe, it'd be good to get him back on the show and see how life was in the NFL, because you guys interviewed him early before we even knew he was going to be a Niner. So with that, it was great seeing him get the little awards and everything, because when I was at the training camp, he was balling out over there. Like they kept talking about his size, he's a little undersized, but he can move, and there's a job you could do if you are undersized. It's not just about being big. You got to be able to move and still play. So I'm real excited. I'm pulling for him. I hope he battles and tries to get a spot up there and, going against the odds. But he's one that he really excites me. And then when we were seeing him get the awards and stuff, I'm real happy for him because, linemen don't get a lot of credit, and that's a hell of an important job. You always hear about your running backs, quarterbacks, receivers. Your linemen, shit, we know that wins you games. So I'm real excited to see him come battle through, and I hope he makes it, and really plays the game and dominates. But the other guys too, like I said, with the young ones coming in, they develop, they have a lot of people to look up to and try to follow the way they play and then make their own way. So I think we have a lot of talent on that backside too, that we could end up turning into good players, help the team grow.
Yeah. And then one guy, so I don't know why he's listed here, T.Y. McGill. I believe he's a free agent after this season, but I would love to bring him back. He provided some D-tackle depth late in the season, but he was probably one of our better pass rushers on the interior. You don't expect him to start, but just as a depth piece, I would love to have him back on the team next year.
Yeah, definitely. And then the way the injuries happen, you need to have players like that ready to go behind him.
Yeah. And then we will hop over and we'll just show you guys the free agents, the 49ers free agents this season. My dad's got to get over to works at Lucid. You saw Brock Purdy driving the Lucid to 49ers before the game, one of those games. But so these are the 49ers free agents this year. Jimmy Ward, Garoppolo, Ebukam, Emmanuel Mosley, Mike McGlinchey, Aziz, Robbie Gould, Daniel Brunskill, Hassan Ridgeway, Kerry Hyder, Croft, Hurst, Tashawn Gibson, Josh Johnson, Jordan Willis, Tabor Pepper, Ross Dwelly, Jake Brendel, Jason Verrett, Flanagan Fowles, Kevin Givens, McKivitz, Moore, Omanahu, and Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings is an exclusive restricted free agent, so 49ers can put a tag on him. I think they used it last year on somebody. It was Aziz Al-Shaair. They put a third-round tag on him, I think, and it guarantees the player like $3 or $4 million for that year, and you get them back another year. But if somebody wants to sign them, you get a third-round pick for that player. So you could put a first, second, third round tender on them, on these guys. But, tons of talent that are free agents this year. We'll be doing another video probably later this week on who we think the 49ers should bring back from this list. But, just real quick, who's the one player on this list that stands out to you that you want back on the team next year?
That's tough. I have a couple like Mosley. I'd like to have Mosley back. Al-Shazir, he's another one. But Jennings, I think Jennings was a big part of our, even though he didn't get in a lot, like I said, he came through in a lot of clutch third downs, and he shows he got the talent. He can move. He's not the fastest guy, but he could get in there and get the ball, take a hit. I really like him. With McGlinchey, he did all right, but I don't know, man. I think we get somebody that, because he was getting laid out a bunch of times. We seen him on his back a bunch of times, but it's always hard because you never know. You get a young guy, they're going to be able to step in and do it. But like you said, there's a lot of good players there. I thought Gold was going to retire this year.
Yeah, he already said he's coming back.
Yeah, there was a couple games that he posted something, I'm just soaking it all in, this and that. So I thought, maybe he's ready to go back home and retire. Because, he's a hell of a kicker. You can't take that. Yeah, he missed some. Whenever the damn announcers will be like, oh, he hasn't missed none of that, then he missed. Like, what the fuck's going on? So that's always a tough one. But there is a lot of talent, and there's a lot of talent on this list here that did help us win a lot of games. We do have our core guys, but there is a lot of talent on this list that we do need to figure out a way to keep some of them guys. Like Jimmy did a lot for the 49ers, great guy, but it's time to go. It's time we move past that. We don't need that in the mix with the rest. Because then at the end of the season, playoffs come around, we're going to be in the same boat. Is the guy going to get hurt? How many picks is he going to throw? Like, I'd like to see him move on and do great things for somebody else, still have a great career, because he changed our franchise. You can't take that away from him.
Yep.
But we do need to figure out a way to keep some of these guys on this list.
And, the tough thing is even if most teams in the NFL don't, appreciate these guys the way we do, you have the Dolphins, you have the Jets, and now you have the Texans, all who have coaches that coach these dudes that have more cap space than us, that will be willing to pay them more than we can. So, if you see a player on here and you say, oh, so-and-so, Azeez Al-Shaair is underrated, nobody's going to sign him, the D'Amico Ryans will pay him more money than the 49ers can. So, having great coaches and getting your coaching tree great and everything is nice. And then it bites you in the end, because a lot of your key guys are going to get poached, just like on the coaching staffs, guys get poached.
Yes. Hey, and that's what helps them do a better job in their first year, is getting somebody that makes them comfortable. Because like you said, there's a lot of players that we know from week in and week out, damn, this dude's a baller, but he didn't get on the big screen all the time. So a lot of teams don't know. And we've seen the last couple of years, look how many players we have on Miami. How many players
and the Jets.
Like, that's a good point you prove, because that's true, man. These fuckers, they leech us like little leeches. They suck the blood out of us.
Exactly. So, it's going to be hard to keep a lot of these people. But if I had to give one person, obviously Emmanuel Mosley, I said he's my guy. I think he was a top 10 corner this year. Got to keep him. But I think the one that you really got to keep is Tashawn Gibson. You need one more year out of Tashawn Gibson. He said he's either playing for the 49ers or he's retiring. And the reason he's playing for the 49ers is because he loves Talanoa Hufanga. So do whatever you got to do. Get him back for one more year. He's old, but he played outstanding. And you do not want to
Yeah.
have to replace your nickel and a safety and possibly a corner in 1 year under a new defensive head coach. Or I mean a new D coordinator. So you must get this guy back for one more
You
year.
know, and that like when you lock it up like that, uh, that's probably a good chance that we do get him back because he was still playing at an elite level. You know, he wasn't showing like even Trent Williams. Yeah, he's getting old. Boy's a baller. Like we got 2 more solid ass years coming out of that boy. This is another one. You know, he great season he had. I could see us bringing him back for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, people could say Jimmy Ward, but Jimmy Ward's going to make too much money. I
Yeah,
think you could get Tashawn Gibson back on a couple $1 million deal, whereas Jimmy Ward's probably going to want like a 3-year deal, 8 million a year, 10 million a year. You can't afford him. He's got to go, unfortunately. But
yeah, and we'll be fine without him. You know,
yeah,
let him get paid. He deserves it. You know, he
he
was with us for
does.
a long time. He deserved that big payout. So I'd be happy for him.
So yeah, I say Tashawn Gibson, Emmanuel Mosley, and Jawan Jennings. Best blocking wide receiver in the NFL. I don't care what
Yes.
anybody says.
What
He
do you
gets in
think
the
about?
defenders' heads. He gets flags drawn. He changes the game.
Yeah.
Third down weapon. Those are the guys that you must bring back to me.
What do you think about Verrett?
I
Because you
think
know
Verrett.
nobody's probably going to pick him up.
I think he needs to retire. His body's given out on him too many times. Not even in live action. Love the dude. He's got to retire. You can't bring him back again because we've seen it time and time again now. The 49ers bring back the injured players, and then it bites you when you're deep in the playoffs and you need a player and they're injured. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't do it anymore. You need to bring in guys that are going to be healthy and be available.
True. Very true.
Yep. You got any closing remarks?
Keep the faith. You know what I mean? It sucks we went down like this. Go KC. Fuck the Eagles. The team itself, I don't have a problem. The fucking fans are ridiculous. You know, I see you love your team, root for your team, but it's like, come on, man. That sometimes it's just, it's a game at the end of the day that we're not getting paid for. The players are. And it's like some of these fools, they just don't know how to act. We had
Yeah.
hella trolls on our TikTok, hella views on some of the posts, you know what I mean? Which is good. But it's like then they come back 3-4 days later talking shit when they're acting like they beat us 1-on-1. Well, fucker, Purdy didn't go down. Our third fucking quarterback, don't forget that. That's a different game. Let's see how Mahomes is if he can move around and be the quarterback that he usually is. And they're going to have their hands full because we were right there with them. We were locking them boys up. So go
Yep.
KC. Even though they took us out, they beat us fair and square. And when we played them, it was legit. Just hope for a good game. Hopefully nobody gets no big injuries. And it's a good Super Bowl. But faithful shit. Keep your eyes open. We got good things to come. We still got some years in us before we have to restart all over.
Yep. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you watch this video, let us know if you like the early bird 49er show for all the people that are up early, going to work, whatever you're doing. And yeah, stay tuned. Like I said, our next video will be on which 49ers free agents we should bring back next year. Thanks for tuning in. We have a lofty goal of trying to hit 500 subscribers before the start of the next 49ers season. So we'll see if we even get close to that. but we got to have some goal, and that's our goal. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Commuters edition.